what did we get into yesterday, right? We were working on a client being able to register. We did the front end with our little form. Let's take a look at that, right? I saw an error flash too. Let's open up the console, make sure we're all good. Yeah. So here's the front end, and then obviously it sends to this back end, this registration request, right? So we extracted the username and password, and then we took the plain text password and we hashed it for all the reasons we talked about yesterday, right? For security and why it's bad to have a plain text password. So yeah, that's the progress we made yesterday. We have more work to do on the registration route, but I want to skip forward and imagine that we have already registered and logged in, whatever we need to do, right? And now we are making a request which requires user authentication. So I turn it to you guys. What's a request in our Reddit project that requires user authentication? Maureen?
Login?
No, login doesn't require authentication. It's part of authentication, but it doesn't require the user to already be logged in.
Oh, like creating posts?
Exactly, yeah. So possibly a post request to /API/post, right? To create a new post. So for this route, what does the user have to provide, Ellery? What does the front end have to provide the back end in our Reddit project to make a post?
Username.
Username, interesting. No, or not directly. No, but we'll get into that in a second. What's the kind of the normal properties a post needs?
Is this now with the login? Sorry, is this with the register or just to make a post?
No. So we're taking a mini break from working on register, and we're imagining that all the auth is already done. And now we're sending a request. We are logged in or whatever we need to be. And we're sending a request front end to back end to create a new post. And we're thinking about what do they need.
Okay, so we need a post, so text.
Yeah, we called it title and message, right?
Yeah.
But then how did we say that the client proves to the server that they're logged in? What's the mechanism of that going to be? Sadiq? How did we say the client is going to prove to the server who they are?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Farhan, any ideas? How did we say the client is going to be logged in? Or how are they going to prove to the server who they are?
Would it be the user ID or JWT?
That's exactly right. But what they're going to do is send a cookie, right? So with every request, after the user is logged in, they are going to send a cookie. So this cookie is going to exist in this request to the server. And it's going to look like this, right? It's just going to be token, and then it's going to look pretty crazy, right? So this is how the client's going to prove to the server who they are. But why do we need a token? Why can't they just put max123 in their request? Yeah, so they're already in the database, right? So why can't they just send like their username and password? What would be wrong with that?
Is it like you're logging in every time, or there's no like session of sorts?
Yeah, so well, technically they're already logged in, right, in our example, but it would be bad to send this plain text password for all the reasons we talked about yesterday, that it would be insecure to have a plain text password. And you would have to store this on your client's computer. So this cookies are stored in just text. So this would be just a security risk if we just stored their username and password. So the alternative we use is called a token. And specifically for us, we're going to use a JWT, right? So then the question is, well, what is this JWT? And here's what it looks like, right? So what is this thing? It doesn't even fit on my screen. Maybe we can get it down. This thing's long. Where's the period? There it is. All right. So you guys got the idea, right? So this is a JWT. And then, oh, this is annoying. There we go. What is a JWT? So this is what we're going to store. This is going to be our token. And we're going to store that in the cookie. And we're doing that because we don't want to store the naked username and password. But then what is a JWT? So what'd you guys get from the pre-work?
The JSON Web Token.
Yeah, it's a good start. So it stands for JSON Web Token. Anything else we can say about this? What?
It has 3 parts to it.
It does, yeah, 3 parts. Very good. It's a string, obviously, right? So a string with 3 parts. And what is that first part?
It's the header.
Header.
Yeah. So the first part is stores base64 encoded header. So it specifies what algorithm is being used, and a lot of stuff we don't really honestly care about that much. The second part is really the interesting part. So this is also base64 encoded. But let's pause there. Does anyone know what base64 encoding is?
A type of encryption?
No. Yeah. So so encoding is non-encryption, because encoding anyone can just decode. Encryption you need you need the key, right, to decrypt. Yeah, so base64 is a method of converting binary to be represented by text. So zeros and ones, you take 6 bits at a time and convert that to A through Z lowercase, and then I forget what it goes up to, but A through something uppercase and numbers. And that represents the sequences of zeros and ones. But we're actually taking our text. Let me show. Do they have the good example of this in here? There we go. So we're taking what looks like this, our text, and we're base64 encoding this. So the algorithm and the type is, this is the base64 encoding of this. But there's nothing secret going on. Anybody can just decode this very easily. So the second part is called the payload. right? Base64 encoded payload. And what is this payload?
It's the information that you're trying to send. So like the username, the password, stuff like that.
Yeah, the info that you want to store. In our case, this is going to be the ID, user ID. Definitely not password. And why not password?
Because there may be duplicate password.
There may be duplicate passwords. There may be duplicate passwords, but no, that's not the specific reason. These JWTs, anyone can just come to this website and decode. So when we make them in a second, which we will, anybody can see the information in the payload. That's not the secret part. So the secret, so nothing about the JWT is secret. The interesting part is this final part, which we call the signature, right? So third part, the signature. And what is the signature?
Isn't it used to like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
No, go ahead.
Well, the signature is made, well, it's made from the info that you get from the, well, not made from, but it's, I don't know what's the right wording for it, but if the payload and the header together gives you the signature.
The header, the payload, and importantly, one final piece. So we actually take the header just as a string, add a dot, but that doesn't really matter. We take the payload and then we add it to just a password we create, which could be anything, right? And then that whole big string, it's actually not that big, but that string we then hash. The signature, payload plus, header plus payload plus a secret password, all hashed. So what is, so if this JWT anyone can see, right? So it's stored on the client's computer and they send it on every request, but literally anyone can see it. So what's the value to us on the back end? There's no secrecy. So what's the value?
I don't know if this is correct, but is it because with JWT, nothing is stored on the server?
That's correct. Yeah. And that is value, but yeah. But not exactly what I'm trying to get at right now. Yeah. So the value, first off, is we avoid the storing a plain text password on the client's computer. But if the token can be seen by anyone, yeah. So they send this token, which can be seen by anyone, to us. Where does the value come in?
Because it's hashed and salted?
Yeah, the value is that only we can know if it's valid or not. Because we signed it with our secret password. And when we see it again, we rehash it. and we know if it's valid, meaning we signed this token, our server, and no other server. So if somebody tries to manipulate it to make the user ID their user ID, if they change one letter of the token, it won't match the eventual hash, and then it won't be valid. So they send us this token, and we know it's valid, and we are the ones who signed it with our server. And that's the value. I feel like this is a hard concept, though. Any questions on that? Okay, so maybe when we build some, it'll feel a little easier, right? So back to this registration request. We've hashed their password. We added them to the database. That's all great. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that the client is storing a cookie on the browser. And right now, there's nothing here. So what we want to do is create the token that we can send in the cookie. So to create the token, we're going to use a package called JSON Web Token. And we're going to import JWT from JSON Web Token. And remember, I know how to use these packages, but if you ever forget, these are NPM packages, so you can just look at the README right here, right? And it'll tell you what to do. So I imported JWT, and now I want to use this to create a token. So I'm going to go const token equals JWT.sign. And what are the arguments it needs? So the first thing it needs is the payload. So what was the payload again?
The ID.
Yeah, for our use case, we're going to store the ID. So I'm going to put user ID here. And where can I access the user ID right now?
User.id.
Beautiful, yeah. All right, the second argument is the secret or private key. So here we actually have to create the secret for our server. So I'm going to call this JWT secret. And I'm just going to finger smash, honestly. Yeah. And then here I'm going to access that by process.env.jwt secret. And I don't think there's any other, yeah. Oh, there's other options, like if you want the token to expire after a certain amount of time. But for our case, with Reddit, we don't want to deal with that, right? Now, I really, I can send back the user, but I also can send back the token, right? Because I want to take a look at that. So let's take a look at that. I don't remember if on the front end I'm still console.logging. I am, right? So let's do max 3, 1, 2, 3. And let's look at the console here and click register. I'm not running my server, so I got to do that. And let's click register again. And we got success false. Constraint failed on the field's username. So why did I see that error? Ritu?
Did you forget to pass username?
No. Unique constraint failed. Where do we have a unique constraint?
In the user table, username.
Yeah. So I have too many max 3s, right? So let's do max 4. click register. Do I already have a max 4? Okay. Yeah. Let's do max 6. All right, finally, success true. And look at this. We got the token, right? Oops. And then the crazy part is, oh, this isn't showing the full thing. Maybe down here. Can I paste this? So the crazy thing is, if I take this and paste it, get rid of the quotes, there it is, user ID. So this is our actual user ID from the database. 6 and ends in 6. Oh, max 6, right? So right here. Yeah. And then IAT got created for us, and we didn't ask for that. Does anyone know what that is?
Is it initial at?
Yeah.
It's when it was created.
Yeah, issued at since the Unix epoch. Yep. So second since like 1970, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Okay. So we successfully created a token, but the token is not in the user's cookies yet. So we have one more step we need to do, right? Nothing in these cookies. So I need to set a cookie. And to do that, I might need to look this actually up. And to do that, I use cookies. Cookie store, I think. Cookies. I need to look this one up. Next.js cookies. Okay, so we're going to import cookies from next headers. And then here, we're going to use cookies.set. Cookies.set. Yeah. Cookies list. Cookies. I'll use this line too. So const cookie store equals cookies, and then I'll do cookie store dot set. And what does set need? It needs the key and the value. Very nice. So what is the key and the value for the cookie I want to set? Well, the key I need to tell you guys because that's just a token. But where's the actual value of the token? Whoops.
Has passwords?
Just token. We created it in this variable right here. So now, just from doing that line, when the response is sent, it's going to know to request the client to set a cookie. So now we might be good. So let's try this, right? So no cookies, right? But we'll do max 7 and click register. And we got a cookie. Token and then the value. And there's our JWT. But now the cool thing is every other request this client makes, it will attach that cookie automatically. Questions on that?
I've got a question. Okay, you go first, Daniel.
David,
Daniel.
yeah.
So some browsers have like a, you block cookies. So like what happens when a browser blocks the cookie? Is that something we have to handle, or I guess what happens?
Yeah. I don't know. You wouldn't be able to use our application. Yeah, they would have to accept cookies for our application. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had the same question.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. I guess I need to research that a bit offline, but I mean, if they block cookies, then our app wouldn't work. What I'm thinking initially. Maybe there's a way around that.
So why do we need permission for people to, if we want to use cookies? Why does it pop up on people's screen that it's okay that we use cookies? Why do we need
I think it's European law.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Privacy stuff. No, there's no technical reason. It's just privacy stuff. So we're technically we're tracking information about them. So yeah. So there's laws that say you need to consent to that. Right.
Is there a way to do this without cookies? Like, I thought like people were trying to get away from using cookies and dealing with client, storing stuff on a client's computer.
I mean, any website you go to, there are going to be a million cookies. So I don't know how serious they're taking that initiative. But there's tons of alternatives to different authentication strategies. There's local storage. Well, you can see them right here, right? There's IndexedDB, there's session-based authentication. So there's OAuth. So on OAuth, you I don't think you need cookies at all because it's all being run through, Google's servers and stuff, in authentication. So lots of different authentication strategies, but this is the one we're using in the course.
Online, it says that you only have to ask permission for cookies if they're not necessary for accessing the website's functionality.
Oh, very nice. So we would be excluded, from this use because it's core to our website. Yeah, that's awesome. Post that in Discord, Calypso. That's interesting. Yeah, so we're not in violation of any laws. It's nice to know. Great questions, though. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So you put the JWT token in the .env. We just make up anything? Does it have to be a certain length, or is there actually we have to get it from that site?
Let me see. Secret password requirement. Let me see if there's. I've never seen this, but so they're saying here 32 characters long, but the longer the better.
And we don't have to do anything with that in our Neon, right?
No, you do. So eventually when you deploy, because this is in .env, this won't get pushed. So you are going to need to tell Netlify about your JWT secret.
So add as an environment variable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I'm just briefly seeing if there's any advice on the secret besides 32 characters. So I think we hit 32 here. So there's a crypto library in Node that will generate random strings for you. Honestly, in a production app, you should probably use that than rely on just finger smashing. Because as random as you try to be, I'm sure there's sequences that aren't random in that. So yeah, that would be my recommendation in probably a production app, to use like a crypto library to generate a random string for you to use as this JWT secret. But certainly for our use cases now, and maybe even for a production app, you can definitely get away with finger smashing, honestly. Any other questions? So I wouldn't, use a site to generate your password, because there's no, there's nothing to say that they're not tracking that, right? Like, yeah. And then it wouldn't be secure at all. If anybody gets this is like the keys to the kingdom, right? Then anyone can sign tokens and pretend to be anyone on your website if they have this secret. Okay, should we try to break this a bit? Because now we successfully registered, right? So let's try to break it. So if we click register again as Max 7, right? We're not getting any error message. So we can do better there. So let me create an error piece of state and set this equally to an empty string, and just show the error in a p tag. And if info.error, I want to return set error with info.error. And let's see what that looks like, right? So I'll put this to console again. Click register. Why isn't this working for us?
Can you do success false instead of info.error?
Yeah, but shouldn't it be the same?
I'm not sure.
Success false, error message. Why is this? If info.error. Hold on a second. Something's weird, because why is this console.logging at all? I thought I deleted that part. Yeah, I need to refresh, I think. So let's do max 1, 2, 3. Click register. There we go. But this is ugly, right? It should say something like, that username is already registered. Please log in. So what do we want to do? Yeah. How can I get a better error message coming from my server? Semsi, how can I improve this error message coming from the server?
You can put the message instead of the error.message.
Well, I never want to hard code the error message here, because this is catching many errors, and it will mask possibly future errors if I do that. So I don't want to do that strategy. Any other ideas?
Do you put it in the next response?
Put it in the next response?
Yeah, the .json and put success false in the error.
Yeah, but where?
In your return, the top one, not the catch one, I think.
So here? But what if the success is true? What if they successfully registered?
You could look. You could have Prisma look for a. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm gonna say in an if statement with your Prisma user.
Yeah, so that's the strategy, right? We want to search for a user first. So how do I search for a user first, Linjay?
You await the Prisma.user find first.
Yeah. And what should I feed it?
Put the where with the username and password.
Well, I'm just going to do username.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if there's a user, now we want to do what you were saying. So, well, I'll do this one. Now we can hard code the error because we know exactly what the error is. User already registered. Please log in. Okay.
Why did you put an underscore in front of user?
Oh, I have a conflict with this
I see.
eventual user. Yeah. Way better message, right? Okay, so that's registering. Any questions on that before we switch to logging in?
So Max, with all the other API stuff that we're gonna need to do, we're always gonna need to check for cookies then, right? With the JWT.
Do you want to, we can skip to that. So yeah, let's skip to that part maybe. So how do we do this part where they're sending a request and we need to know if they're a user, right? If what am I saying? We need to know if the cookie, if the token is valid and they're logged in, right? So let's work on that actually. Let's skip to this and do I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do this. No, you know what I want to do? The next objective I want? In the nav bar here, I want to say, if somebody is logged in, I want to say welcome to the person. Only if they're logged in. So if the user is logged in, they have a valid token in their cookie, I want to say welcome with their name. So basically, I need the user here. And then how can I get that user here? I am going to create a function in lib called fetch user.js. And I'm going to export, this is going to be async, I'm sure, fetch user, right? Export async function. So what do I need to do? I need to check if there's a cookie that says token. So that's step one, right? So we're going to use the cookie store again. So const cookie store equals cookies. And then cookie store dot, which method do you think we want to use to try to get a cookie now? So we're going to use get, right? And all we need is the name of the cookie. So what's the name of the cookie we set? Vanessa?
No idea. Was it token?
Yeah, exactly. It's right here. It's hard to see, but token. Cookie store.get token. And let's take a look at this, right? I'll just call this token, I guess. And let's return token for now and see what that looks like. And then in navbar, I'm going to call fetch user. I'm going to import it and call it. And I'm going to say, eventually it's going to give me a user. So what? Oh, so let's take a look at that, right? So we're invoking fetch user and we're taking a look at its response. So we go to the console here, we click refresh. And ooh, we have this ugly, ugly, big old object, right? Oh, we actually have a promise. So we need to go back to fetch user, and I need to see an example of this again. Cookie store, Next.js, cookies.get. Okay, anyway, I see on this big object, I see name and value. So maybe we can, or actually, maybe we can destructure value is what I actually care about. So let's try to grab that and return that. No. Oh, sorry. It's a server component, so it'll show up in the terminal. No. What is going on? What am I doing wrong here? Cookie store dot get token? No.
Do we need to await it?
Yeah, I didn't think so. I mean, in the example right here, they're not awaiting it. Let me try again. Const. Let's just call this
In your
X.
code that you gave us, you have just const user cookie, but not in any braces.
User cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Return user cookie. Okay, so we're fetch. Oh, because this is an async. My bad. Because this is an async function, we do have to await it. Yeah, my bad. So yeah, in here we have to await this because I made it async. Yeah. And then here we have to make this async. Yep. Yeah. So now,
Max, is there a reason why you're putting in the nav bar instead of the actual login page.jsx?
we're going to need user in a lot of different places in our application. This is just a place that we already have existing that we can make use of it, but you're going to need it all over your application. That's why we're making a function that you can import anywhere or any server component and use. So now user is an object with name and value. So here, user cookie.value has the actual value of our token, but we have to decide if it's valid. So we have to determine if the token is valid. We signed it, right? And to do that, we'll use JWT. So we have to import JWT from JSON Web Token. And then we'll do JWT dot verify. And we'll put in the token. So that's user cookie dot value. And then our secret is process.env dot JWT secret. Do we call it? And let's take a look at what decoded looks like, right? So click refresh on this and we see it's an object with user ID. So what we actually want is the user ID. I'm going to grab that. But then what we can do, this part maybe isn't completely necessary, but to be very sure that this user is still good and active, we can send a request to the database to fetch this user based on ID. So how can we do that? How can we send a request to the database to fetch this user? David?
You can do a Prisma call.
Yeah.
and then just say Prisma dot user dot find first, I guess. Where, and then the ID of user ID.
Yeah, awesome. And then here finally will return user. And now we have ID, username, and password, which we don't necessarily want, right? So we can delete user.password. And there we go. We have an object with ID and username. And we can call this function in a lot of different places in our application. But here in navbar, we wanted to use it to welcome the user. So finally, how can I say welcome to whoever's logged in?
Username.
Yeah. So welcome Max7. Very nice. But another improvement we can make right here, if a user is logged in, do they need to see login and register? What do you guys think?
No.
No. So if a user is logged in, how can we not show that? Or in other words, only show that if a user is not logged in, those paths, those links.
Did you use a ternary to change the display, like display none or display lock?
Yeah, I'm going to use the logical end, but same idea. I'm going to say user.id, if that exists, then show, sorry, if user ID does not exist, then show login and register. So now if a user is logged in, there's no reason to see login and register. Likewise, if a user is not logged in, they shouldn't see the option to log out, right? So by the same logic, we can only show log out if they're logged in. It's not going to change here because we are logged in. But now the cool thing is, look, I can click refresh and I'm still logged in because that cookie is persistent. I think I'll probably, this is like a natural stopping place. So any final questions?
I guess I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but does that mean when we do log out, we need to clear the cookie?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, log out, the primary function is going to be to clear the cookie. I guess let's try to break. Yeah, go ahead, Victor.
This might be not a totally related question, but like with the way you have it sort of like if not user ID, like it won't show like login or register, like how would that affect if like with styling, like if we set up like all these links on the top of our page like a certain distance from each other, how does this affect that?
Well, hopefully you'd be using Flexbox, and Flexbox will automatically Flexbox doesn't care if there's 3 or 100 items, it'll style the same rules.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so let's try to break this, right? So what's one way we can break this? What can a user potentially have stored?
The cookie.
A bad cookie, maybe. So let's like change, take out the E, right? Press enter. Does anyone have predictions? What's going to happen?
It's gonna clear all this stuff or whatever have you, and it's gonna show up the login register. Oh, there's gonna be an error?
Yeah, both those things I think are going to happen. I think we're going to get an error and we'll see login and register, but let's see. So I'm going to click refresh and we got an error, right? And our whole site actually isn't working, so this is good. So let's clear through these errors. So JWT.verify is throwing an error saying invalid token. So that's coming from here. So what should we do here? So it's possible that this line will throw an error. What should we do about that? We don't want our application to crash.
Try catch?
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this whole thing in a try catch. And I can console.log the error. That's fine. But at the end of the day, what should I return from fetch user? If there's no user, what should I return?
The user not found or something like that.
I'm actually going to return an empty object because that's the shape of if there was a user, that'd be the shape. But an empty object in my application will represent the lack of a user. Yeah. Okay, click refresh again. And we're console.logging this error, but that's fine because our application isn't crashing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're good there. Any final questions? Can I put back the E?
Are we gonna do the login tomorrow?
Yeah. We probably still have 2 more days of lecture.
Yeah.
But that might be it of the kind of the primary lectures, core lectures.
So then, if they have a bad cookie, how would they does it need to create a whole new web token?
Yeah, they'll have to re-log in, re-register. Yep.
So you need to, because I'm confused because I know it makes it when it does the fetch, but I don't understand like how it would fix that in the login if it's bad.
The login's going to replace it. The login's going to do a lot of things register does. So it's going to, but importantly, it's going to do this line. When it sends this response with this cookie store set, it's a message to the browser to replace the token. So it'll get replaced.
So register doesn't set the token?
Register does set the token right here.
It's okay.
But in a lot of applications, it doesn't, right? I would say in most applications, it actually doesn't. You register and then you have to like confirm with your email and then go log in. But in our application, you register, you're logged in.
And that also means every time they log in, we're going to be, whatever have you, deleting their cookie and creating a new JWT, I guess.
Every time they log in, we are creating a new token, a new cookie. Yep, correct. All that's correct. Yeah. All right. If there's any last minute questions, you can shout them out. Breakout rooms.